some lyric folk on there, I think.
It's in color. Welcome to Conversations with Kay. I'm Kay Ryder. And every week I talk with Vermonters who are leaders in the fields of government, healthcare, education, the arts, and community life. My guests are from the Lyric Theater Company, Sara McDonald, Artistic Director of the upcoming show Annie, and the new CEO of the Lyric Theater Company, Jos Rincon. Now, before we start, I want to mention my radio listeners on WBVT-LP 99.3 FM. And a special welcome to Jose, who's new in town again.
Thank you,
Back
Kay.
again. And we have something very exciting that's happening.
Yes.
A former member of the Lyric Theater Company, and I'll let you guys talk about that.
Thank you, Kay. So, Kirsten Anderson, a native Vermonter, is now playing Eliza Doolittle in a production at Lincoln Center. I knew her as a little girl in my production of Beauty and the Beast, so to have a native Vermonter like Kirsten playing an iconic role is just really exciting for us.
It's a wonderful show.
It's a wonderful show.
I saw it, my family, we went in May of this year, and we saw the show, and I loved it. And I thought it should have gotten more Tonys, but that's another sad story. But at that point, Kirsten was singing and dancing. So this is thrilling. It's a wonderful show. It's a wonderful part.
It is a wonderful part.
Yeah.
For sure. No, we couldn't be more proud to call her an alumnus of Lyric Theater Company. Yeah, it's terrific. And we have lots of other alumnus out there doing terrific things as well. Shayna Taub is another performer who came up through the Lyric program, and she just announced that she's going to be working with Elton John on a musical that's coming up. So yeah,
great.
It's great things are happening.
Wonderful.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you have to keep everybody in the community aware
Yes.
of your alums, if you will.
Yes,
Yes.
for sure.
Now, Sara, this will be Lyric Theater's third production
Yes, it's the
of
third.
Annie. And why did you decide to do the show again?
Well, this is a show that I've always enjoyed. It's an iconic show, and it has a message that always rang true to me. You know, it's a story about family. It's a story about money can't buy happiness, and it's just something that rang true. And it's an iconic show that it's timeless. And I thought it was time to bring it back. And you know, I had actually never seen a live production of. I'm familiar with the movie version, which I love, with Cara Burnett. So I thought it would be exciting to take the challenge of putting a fresh spin on it.
Yes, well, now, when is Annie going to be produced at the Flint?
Okay, so we're going to be going up November 8th through 11th. We're doing 6 performances with 2 matinees.
Great, that's wonderful. How long have you yourself been involved with the Lyric Theater?
Well, I've been involved with Lyric for about, gosh, almost 20 years. I've done a lot with Lyric. This is my 3rd Lyric production that I've directed. But I've done a lot of things backstage and choreography and everything.
Like a lot of other members of the Lyric Theater.
Absolutely.
Multiple roles over the years. What other shows have you directed?
I directed Beauty and the Beast in 2008, and I directed Rent. So this is, again, my 3rd production as the artistic director.
All very different type shows.
Right, and all these shows have a special meaning to me. There has to be a message that rings true to me, and
Okay.
and that's partly why I chose Annie.
Great, great. Now, tell our audience a little bit about Annie's plot, not too much.
So Annie, this is set in the 30s, the time during the Depression, and Annie is in the orphanage and hoping to have her parents reunite. And she gets selected to go to the mansion to spend time with Daddy Warbucks, who's a rich billionaire, powerful man, but he thought it would be charitable to have someone come. And through that, they develop a relationship that I won't want to spoil it for those who aren't familiar with the show.
Good. Now, what kind of a girl is Annie?
So Annie is bigger than life. When Annie's on stage, she's precocious but funny. She's sweet, but a little naughty sometimes. But she lights up the room when she comes in. You have to love her.
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. We took two of our children to see Annie on Broadway, and our son was 11 years old, and the girl who was playing Annie was 11 years old, and he fell in love with her, and oh, he thought she was so talented, and you know, I mean, you know, here he was 11 just playing soccer or something, and here she is on Broadway. I mean, you know,
right.
Very exciting for him. It was really, really nice. You mentioned some things about what Annie is about. Obviously, it's set in a certain time when things were rough in the country.
Yes.
And Annie was in an orphanage.
Yes.
Which was, you know, more common then than now.
Right.
Which is good to say, I guess. And absolutely. And but there are themes that run through this. I think in terms of you know, loyalty. Annie is loyal to her friends from the orphanage. She
is loyal. She never forgets about them. And it's important to her to try to help them find their families. And she's loyal to the family that had left her there. She has, you know, she references that throughout. And that can at times make her wistful and sad, but she never loses that spark and that hope. So I think the hope that you see through Annie kind of carries the show.
Right. Yes. Yes. And she's very dynamic. I'm talking with Sara McDonald, who's the artistic director of the Lyric Theater's production of Annie this fall, and with Jos Rincon, who is the new CEO of the Lyric Theater Company. Why is Miss Hannigan, who is the director or the leader of the orphanage, why is she such an important character, Sara?
Well, she's actually a challenging role to play for an actress because when you first meet her, she may come off gruff and stuff, but she actually cares about these kids to the point where, as the show evolves, you'll see that while that little gruff, kind of rough exterior, there's actually a heart in there, and that develops throughout the story. And again, don't want to give that away, but you'll see that as a head of an orphanage, she's responsible for those girls, but ultimately she does care about those girls, I feel.
Yeah.
Sure. No, I think, you know, with Miss Hannigan, it's easy to kind of play her one-dimensional as almost a cartoonish character, but if you really delve into the character, and as the story goes on, she becomes very three-dimensional with, you know, full range of emotions.
Yeah, there's some great songs in Annie. The Sun Will Come Out Tomorrow.
Oh, sure, yeah.
We have, you know, Easy Street and
NYC.
NYC.
Never Fully Dressed Without a Smile.
Which is a famous song that we've seen with Daddy Warbucks and Annie.
Yeah, yeah. It's interesting that the songs, you know, it's the depression. The sun will come out tomorrow, and I think that's the way that people had to live then. The hope for the future. And think about
she gives
things.
hope to those other orphans.
Yeah, and I think it's. Oh, go ahead. I was going to say it's still a message that, you know, is important today. The message of hope and you know, searching for family.
Yeah, that's what I want to talk about. Is I think Annie is really. You mentioned iconic. And I think that Annie is very relevant today. I think Annie is very relevant today. You do have a bit of a political background here. Obviously, it was a very different type. The 30s were a very different type of decade in our country, and everything had turned over with FDR, with his social programs and his ideas. And so, would you like to talk about that a little bit?
Well, people, you know, even today, people are struggling. You know, we know that the typical quote-unquote middle class, it's kind of shifted. You have the rich and you have the poor. We have a lot, even though we may have orphanages, we have a lot of poor people who are struggling right now, that are on the street or facing problems and need hope. Mm-hmm. And they need hope. And also the definition of family continues to change. While that show was set more of a Annie looking for a traditional quote-unquote family, we now know that the family is what you make of it, and so I think that people will be able to relate to that who may not have, you know, a traditional family that family isn't made up of.
Right, like in Annie, people create their own families today.
Absolutely.
You have really a mixture of people who say, "This is my family," particularly in the cities,
Yes.
where you know, a lot of people aren't married, a lot of people don't have partners, you know,
That's
and
right.
they're there struggling, trying to make their way, and they kind of create their own,
They do.
you know, their own group, if you will.
That's part of why I like the show so much,
Yeah.
actually, is
Yeah.
the fact that family is what you make of it. It's not who you're born into necessarily.
Right. Now, where would someone call to get tickets for Annie? More information about the show, and I know you have a great website.
Sure. So if you want information about our show, particularly if you want information about the volunteer opportunities that we offer for our show, you can go to the Lyric website, which is www.lyrictheatervt.org, and that's theater with an R-E.
Would you repeat that, please?
Sure. The Lyric website is www.lyrictheatervt.org.
Okay.
So that's for information about the show, but if you'd like to order tickets, you can call the Flynn box office at 802-86-FLYNN, or you can go to their website, which is www.flynntix.org.
Okay, now speaking about volunteers, the Lyric has oodles of volunteers behind the scenes. For every person on stage, you probably have 3 or 4 backstage doing all kinds of things. And I have had the pleasure of working with Patricia Boera, Pat Boera, for many years now. She does the fall PR for the fall shows for the Lyric, and she has really been most helpful. And I think probably a lot of Lyric volunteers are just like her.
Oh, she's absolutely wonderful. But all our volunteers, you know, other than our orchestra, every person that you see backstage or on stage for Lyric Theater is a volunteer. And when you think about hundreds of people who volunteer their time, that shows the love of theater in the community.
Right, and your sets are magnificent. Absolutely.
For sure, and those are all built by, you know, local community folks who do it in their off hours. You know, they have jobs, or they're retired, or they have schoolwork, and they come to Lyric because they love theater, they love working together, and they build these spectacular sets year after year.
And Lyric considers themselves a family, and we build relationships through the years. And so anybody that's part of Lyric says, well, it's a family, and it is.
Just like Annie.
Just like
Found
Annie.
a family.
The family
There
you
go.
build for
There
yourself,
you go.
yes.
I'm talking with Sara McDonald, the artistic director of Lyric Theater's fall production of Annie, and Jos Rincon, who is the new CEO of the Lyric Theater. Jose,
Yes.
why did you want to come back to Burlington to be the CEO of the Lyric Theater?
So sure, I'm a native of Burlington, and I had been working in Manhattan for about 10 years, working in nonprofit arts, working for nonprofit arts organizations, and I had been looking for a way to come back to Vermont, kind of use the experience that I had gained in New York and support the arts community here, which is really where I got my start and my passion and involvement in the performing arts. So this position with Lyric became available, and it seemed like the perfect opportunity. Not only would it allow me to come back to Burlington, but you know, as the executive director, I really get to be involved with the marketing, with fundraising, with our education programs, a little bit of everything. And so it's been great.
Right, now you are a native of Burlington. You have been quoted as saying, quote, "My passion for the performing arts began in Burlington," end of quote. What did you see or hear around here that just turned you on to the arts?
Well, I had a great music teacher in grade school. I'm a graduate of Mater Christi and Wrights High School, and I actually had the same music teacher at both those schools, was Stephanie Hahn-Nolan, and so she really ignited the spark to begin with. And I was involved in plays at Mater Christi, and then got involved in you know, the local choral festival circuit when I was in high school. The first Lyric show that I saw was Fiddler on the Roof, and was just amazed. I had never seen a show on that scale before. And then I also saw Gypsy when I was growing up, and Gypsy remains one of my ultimate favorites.
I believe that first show, Fiddler on the Roof, had Catherine Tampus as Golda.
Oh.
And she was marvelous. Am I correct?
We've done Fiddler a few times.
Yes, you're correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, she of course did a lot of volunteering for the Lyric too.
She vocal coach for me for 2 shows.
For a number of years. And now we have a room in our new building, in our new warehouse at the Lyric Creative Space, that's dedicated to her, the Catherine
that's
Tampus
nice.
Music Room.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's nice. Great tribute.
For sure.
Great tribute. Had a lovely voice.
Beautiful voice.
So how long, you said 10 years that you worked in our nonprofit arts organizations in New York City. What groups did you work with?
I started working for an organization called Opera America, which is essentially a service organization or a trade association for anybody that's involved in producing or performing opera in the United States. And so we would create professional development resources for singers and directors. We would host a national conference every year. So I did that for a number of years, and then I moved over to Orchestra of St. Luke's, which is a fantastic symphony orchestra that produces a season of concerts in and around the city every year. And so I was their personnel manager. I was looking after the musicians, making sure that they were well taken care of and well behaved, and you know, just being part of a team that produced the great shows.
Yeah. I have a friend who plays French horn frequently with St. Luke's.
Yes.
Her name is Sharon Moe. She's a great great French horn player, and she also teaches. She has a lot of students in the New York City area.
Oh, terrific! Well, St. Luke's has a great horn section.
Right. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah,
Shout out to the St. Luke's horn section.
They do actually. There are a lot of. It's interesting that you mentioned the opera too. I'm an opera nut, and I love the opera. But it's amazing how many young people are in New York City trying to find their way in the music world. It must be hard. Now, you said that you worked with the musicians at St. Luke's and took care of them.
Yes.
What do you mean by that?
Well, so these were largely freelancers who were, gigging around, and even freelancers who had been gigging for upwards of 40 years in the city and still doing that hustle. So when you're a performer, it really helps to have somebody that's making sure, they're getting the information of where they're supposed to be and when, and so they don't necessarily have to think of that information. They can just go and do their job to the best of their ability and make the beautiful music.
Right, right. Yeah, and I've read that now my university has the Eastman School of Music, and there's a course there now for helping these students when they go out.
That's great.
To market themselves.
That's great.
Yeah, it's people come every year still to New York City to make those dreams possible, and it's a really special place.
Right. Oh, absolutely. Well, as the song goes, if I could make it there, I'll make it anywhere.
Exactly. NYC.
Yeah, right. Absolutely. And he says that too. Jose, why is the lyric theater such an important part of the Burlington music scene? Where does it fit in?
Well, we're at our 45th season right now. The 2018-2019 season is our 45th season, so we're...
Oh, congratulations.
Thank you very much. Yes, so I think you can say that we're definitely a community institution. We are very deeply tied to the Flynn Theater, which has been our home since the very beginning, and just the opportunities that we offer to people living here from age 8 to on up to get involved with producing shows and learning about how shows are put together, and particularly, we offer opportunities for folks to be involved with shows that are on the scale of the Flynn stage. And so if you want to learn how to build sets, if you want to learn how to make costumes or do hair and makeup, we offer all of those opportunities right there for anybody that wants to do it.
Now, the Lyric Theater was instrumental in having the Flynn come to life again.
Yeah, to be refurbished as it was.
Right, right. You were the first group that actually bought into it, if you will.
Yep, yes we did.
Yes, and kind of created the first board of the Flynn Theater, and that kind of helped it become its own arts organization. And it's been off and running ever since.
Now let's talk about your new building.
Yes.
I want to talk about your new building.
Terrific.
You have a new building, Jose?
We do.
It's great, huh?
Yes, it's the Lyric Creative Space. It's at 7 Green Tree Drive in South Burlington. It's the result of a capital campaign that was started a number of years ago. The capital campaign has to date raised over $1.1 million, and with that money we purchased, it's a 14,000 square foot warehouse, and we outfitted it with not only an administrative wing, but also construction areas for our props and our costumes and our sets and adequate storage for our vast inventory of all those things. And it's a really special place, and so the shows in 17-18, our last season, were the first shows to be built there. Annie, of course, will be built there as well, and it's also a great place for our team to have design meetings.
Yes,
they're there almost every evening. There's activity as we get closer and closer to showtime. And the capital campaign continues. The last missing piece is our rehearsal hall, but I'm excited to say that we are going to start construction November 1 on the rehearsal hall. And once that is completed, we'll have every piece of a lyric show under one roof.
Now I'm curious. The
Yes.
rehearsal hall, the last piece. Were you saving money by doing construction and having storage at the new place? Did that save you money that you didn't have to go someplace else to construct your props or things like that?
It does save us money. It definitely streamlines our operations as well, to not have every sets happening over here and costumes happening over here. And then when we have the rehearsal hall built, it'll streamline it even more because folks can take a break from rehearsal and go do a costume fitting, or you can actually bring a prop in once it's ready and put it right into rehearsal, and it'll be the scope, the size of the Flynn stage. So you can really start staging in a way that will translate to where you'll be performing.
Okay, so you do have some room to rehearse if you want to, yes.
Yes, not at the actual space. We built the costume shop and the prop shop and everything else first because it's hard to find a costume shop to rent. We have all this very specific material. For a rehearsal hall, you just need a big open space. And we can find those otherwhere, and we have, thankfully, had some spaces donated, but we'll have our own very soon.
Great. Now, you have a background in fundraising.
I was an arts professional in New York starting in 2008. I started as a development coordinator, and I've also done a number of campaigns just in my own personal life for some organizations that I've been very involved with, the New York City Gay Men's Chorus and AIDS Walk New York, and so fundraising has been part of my career for a while.
Well, fundraising is a very thankless job in
many
ways.
It is, and we're thankful for Jose.
Well, I get to say thank you all the time.
Yes. Right. You
Which
can't
is one
thank
of the best
your donors
parts.
enough.
Right.
That's something.
The donors and the volunteers.
Right.
We wouldn't be able to do our shows without people who donate thousands of hours every season.
I run into people all the time who have volunteered for the lyric.
Yes.
Sure.
I put on makeup. I did this. I did that. I pounded nails. And some people have been involved with the lyric for a very long time.
Oh yeah.
Absolutely.
Joanne Stanfield. She runs your tickets.
Yes.
She's been around a long time.
She has.
Yes, absolutely. She's a lifetime member.
Oh my goodness. I'm talking with Sara McDonald, who is the artistic director for Lyric Theater fall production of Annie, and with Jos Rincon, who is the new executive director for the Lyric Theater Company. Jose.
Yes.
Yes. Do you have future goals for the Lyric Theater Company? We have a little time here. Talk about it.
Sure, absolutely. Well, one of the things that was very apparent right when I first started is we have this incredible wealth of knowledge among our volunteers who have been doing these shows for decades, whether it's in building costumes or designing sets or in hair and makeup or directing, stage managing. So how do we capture that knowledge and make it available and pass it on to folks who are just getting in to the scene and just have a curiosity of getting involved, so that we can continue to have really well-trained volunteers to produce our shows for years to come. So I'm excited to say that just this month we started a series of workshops at the Lyric Creative Space. We did some hair and makeup workshops, and so we hope that that will continue and grow into set construction workshops and costuming workshops, so that our volunteers who have this incredible wealth of knowledge can pass it on to volunteers who are just getting involved. And I think that's how we're going to maintain some longevity.
Have you ever sent the Lyric people out into the high schools? The high schools are producing shows?
We have partnered, we have people involved with Lyric. Doris O'Brien comes to mind, for example, who's a choreographer for Lyric, but also is in the schools, and her husband will help build sets. So they can help us bridge the gap between the high schools and middle schools. So we have a lot of our volunteers that work directly with the high schools and the middle schools to bring in talent, but also for backstage for all those roles, costumes, everything.
Yes.
Great.
And we also loan and rent costumes and props to schools every year. I mean, just last season alone, we worked with over 20 high schools and other community theater organizations, because we, as one of the larger organizations in town doing community theater, we have this, inventory of costumes and props that we love to make available for folks that are doing what we're doing.
Now, when we think about the Lyric Theater, we think about the show at the Flynn. But you have other programs.
Yes, we do.
You have a summer camp and other things, don't you?
We do. We have our Lyric Kids Summer Camps, which is one of the programs that we'll be very excited to bring to the Lyric Creative Space once we have our rehearsal hall. And once we have our own space, we'll hopefully be able to grow that program. Right now it's a 2-week program for kids 8 to 13, but with our own space, being able to save money on not having to rent space for that, we'll be able to, you know, grow it even more and do more of that.
Great. Well, that's wonderful. Now, I asked this question to both of you. You don't have a lot of time left, but do you want to expand? We talked about this a little bit about in the high schools and the grade schools, but do you want to expand Lyrics program so more people, a larger variety of people will see your shows?
Our goal always is to reach out to the community and bring in the excitement of theater. I think with social media and everything, that live theater sometimes gets forgotten about. And so doing these programs, doing outreach community, but just getting the word out. Papoera doing a fantastic job getting us the word out. We want young people to come and see a show, and that's why a show like Annie will appeal to particularly these young kids who might get excited, like, you know, and see that, oh, maybe I could do that someday. So we can continue to grow theater. So it's important that we get people in of different backgrounds and different interests for our shows, and that's why we choose a variety of different shows. Rent was a different audience than Annie versus some of our future shows. So we can keep a broad interest in the theater.
Right.
For sure.
Would you like to add to that?
Well, I want, you know, as many people as absolutely possible to come see a lyric show, and you know, if they decide they want to then get involved with the lyric show, fantastic. If it's not for them and they just want to be, you know, an excited audience member, that's great too. But I think to your point, yeah, just the unique special experience of seeing a live theater performance is maybe not something that, you know, people experience in their lives.
There's no autocorrect on the voice. Something could happen,
Yep.
and that's what brings it excitement.
Live performances are magical, as far as I'm concerned. And I want to congratulate you for bringing these live audiences for 45 years now. Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kay.
And good luck with Annie, and thank you for joining us on Conversations with Kay.